Welcome back for the first home match preview of this season after a glorious late show over in Hertfordshire. Obviously we will talk about Truro, Nigel, but got to have a quick chat about our little sojourn to St Albans. It was definitely a game of two halves, I feel, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a game of two halves, but like we said at half time on the commentary, you know, the amount of possession that St Albans did have, I don't think Alexis Andre Jr. he didn't have to make a save, did he? So, you know, I think he was the two chances that they was through on goal. He came out, covered the angles well. You know, that was what impressed me about that. You know, it was a solid defensive performance, and you know, we said it on the comms on the hot take as well. You know, how well did Sam Smith do in that heart of that defence? You know what I mean? He was really good, wasn't he? And you know, he really didn't look out of place at that level. And you know, there was one mistake that he made where he gave the ball away when he was, but then his powers of recovery to get back and stop that being a sort of chance for St Albans was really good. So yeah, you know, but yeah, second half we did grow into the game, didn't we? And
real attacking intent as well, I thought.
Absolutely, yeah. You know, I think, you know, we said it on the hot take that, you know, the introduction of John Benton, you know, really helped with that. And, you know, it was all one-way traffic at the end there, wasn't it, really? You know, and like we said, you know, if there was one team that was going to get the winner, it was going to be Maidstone. And then that ball that Ben Brooks put in for that corner, you know, it deserved to, you know, that assist alone, you know, it's deserved to have that sort of winning moment, didn't it? You know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, as I say, it's a good positive start. You know, we said they were going to be tricky opponents, so all good stuff.
All good stuff. So we're obviously going to talk about Treeview. We're not going to talk about Treeview. It's a Truro preview. That's probably going to stay in now. Maybe like a right numpty. Anyway, hopefully not. So we're going to preview Truro now. Easy for me to say. We've made 8 new signings across the summer and had a change of manager as well. We mentioned previously in one of our earlier videos, Paul Watton had left and taken over at Torquay, and John Askey, who's been at a number of clubs at this level, taking over at Truro, getting the first game in the new ground there. We discussed off camera earlier, John Askey, very good manager at this level and above, and very, very experienced, and he'll get a lot out of this group of players that he's got here this season.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, let's not forget that the last time we had an opening fixture in the National League away at Altrincham, the first home game we had here was against Truro City, and John Askey was in charge. So it's kind of like history repeating itself. You know, we came from behind on that occasion to nick a 2-1 win. But yeah, that doesn't happen very often, does it? Whether it's either Gallagher or away from home, you know. I'm sure you've got the stats on it somewhere along the line. But
I'll be bringing them up at some point, of course.
But yeah, you know, we don't often come from behind to win games. So, you know, it was a baking hot afternoon that afternoon as well against York, wasn't it? So I say, yeah, hope history repeats itself in that game, and you know, Maidstone can start their home season against Truro with a win, because you know, George has mentioned about it, and Craig, all the management team. You know, we need to make Gallagher a fortress, don't we? So you'd hope that them coming up on a long journey would sort of.
Well, an even longer journey. Even longer journey than last season, of course, technically. So running through the retained list from Truro from this summer, goalkeeper Morgan Jones, defenders Billy Palfrey, Ryan Law and Tom Harrison. In the midfield, Ben Addlesbury, Dan Rooney, Will Dean and Connor Riley Lowe. And up front, Dominic Johnson-Fisher, Tyler Harvey and Andrew Neal. Not that one, because of course I remember quoting myself from last season. Very good, solid base of players they've got to play with. 2 that I'd mentioned that have left, quite prominent players. Ed Palmer, defender, left initially, and then Dan Sullivan, a player who played an awful lot of games for Truro, got that very crucial goal in that game against the Stones down in Gloucester back in April as well. That very agile touch and just nerdle into the corner there, sort of Hal Robson-Carnew-esque. So they have retained a decent core of their squad from last season, but a couple of key omissions from that list that a few of the fans might be concerned about potentially.
Yeah, they could be, but you know, the players that they have retained. I mean, Tyler Harvey is the one that stands out. He scored a goal. I think he scored a goal in that victory against us at the back end of last season at Gloucester, wasn't it? They played it at the time. And Ryan Law very much had Football League experience. Played at Gillingham just up the road here a few seasons ago. So yeah, they've got the experienced players in there. So you'd think with John Askey, who knows his way around not just this league but the league level above as well, and League Two. He's managed in all of those 3 leagues, isn't he? So you'd imagine that he'd be able to get a tune out of them and get them playing to a certain style. It's just whether he's able to embed that so soon. Might be a good time to play them because depending on who you listen to, they're either dark horses for promotion or at least playoffs, or they're relegation certainties. But I just suspect it's probably somewhere in the middle. If John actually can get that sort of like new manager bounce, new ground bounce, if he can get all that going, they could be onto something good. So it could be the right time to play them.
Could be. And talking of additions and putting things in the mix, the 8 new signings that Truro have made over the summer. Sam Sanders, a defender, signed on a 2-year deal. He had a loan spell there last season. He played under Askey at York as well, so doing the obligatory bringing some of your old mates into town with you. Dan Lavercombe, goalkeeper, he had 12 clean sheets at Taunton last season. Midfielders Saidu Sanogu and Yassine Ennaya have both signed as well. Sanogo played for Folkestone and Chatham quite recently, and Ennaya was at Truro in the 22-23 season. So the first half of their new signings there, Nigel. Thoughts on those? 1 or 2 local lads in there as well.
Yeah, exactly. He's, you would think though Askey's only come in the summer, there'd be sort of local scouts and club recruiters there to know the sort of the local talent. I know Watton's obviously gone. He's taken some players with him to Torquay, but yeah, he's not just. That's what you get when you get a manager from outside the area in Askey. They have got contacts, so they can get players in. They've obviously got a little bit of a budget there because it's a hell of a commute if you're coming from, from York, isn't it, or the Yorkshire area to Truro. So, it's a nice part of the country, isn't it? So if you can sell them that dream and you've played for the manager before, it could be quite good for him.
He's had quite a few play for him before, as we've mentioned.
Exactly, and they're all good players, aren't they? So that he's been at that level above. So if you know the manager and you know the way they want to play, that's going to help when you go in and sort of embed yourself into the team, isn't it? So there's certainly players that you need to watch.
Talking of players to watch, the other half of their signings, fullback Tyler Love Holmes, he signed a 2-year deal. He signed from Saltash United. Zimbabwean winger Tavonga Kaleya is on a 1-month loan initially from Doncaster Rovers. A well-known surname for this player, at least, Christian Oxlade-Chamberlain. He's on a 3-month loan from Kidderminster Harriers. He's a fullback and, of course, Alex's younger brother of married Little Mix fame, I believe. And Jays Kabir, he's signed on the eve of the new season. Plenty of experience in Scotland and Ireland. I'm sure Sam Bones probably tussled with him at some point in the past. Those other 4 signings there then, Nigel, a bit of a mixed bag and quite a lot of experience from all over the place.
Exactly, definitely all over the place. I mean, Christian Oxlade-Chamberlain, I think he played at Aldershot as well, hasn't he? So yes. He's got that National League experience. But it's just like I was saying, you've got that experience in key positions. When you've got players like Tyler Harvey, that's he's obviously settled in the area. He could have gone to Torquay, I suppose, with Watton.
With everybody else.
Exactly, yeah. But he chose to stay there. And again, let's not forget they've just moved into a new stadium, so they actually are naturally playing down in Truro. So we know the effect that had when we came back to Gallagher that first time. It just drives you on, the crowd sort of grow, and there's not a lot of sport and football, particularly in Cornwall. I think Truro are the only team. So if they can build that fan base. I wouldn't imagine too many of them will be travelling to the Gallagher. I don't think we're going to see a mass invasion of Cornwall folk coming up. But
listening on Stones Live.
But it's good. I suppose in a way as well. Like I say, it's actually can sort of go under the radar a little bit because there's not that great expectation on him. Yeah. He can sort of like start bending his ways and. Let's hope that it is a game too soon for him because, say we've come off the back of a victory, they come off the back of a defeat against Dorking. So hopefully we won't have a kick clash this week.
Indeed.
And it's all set up for a nice sort of opening fixture, I think, really.
So Truro's form, including last season, they had their epic survival run of all those games in all those last couple of weeks. Huge volume of games that they somehow managed to get through. Of course, we were there at all sorts of hours and days of the week to get our games played in that neck of the woods. So that, having a summer between then and now, I think is probably hopefully going to, the experience will be good for them, but at the same time I think I'll be relieved to be playing Saturday, Tuesday again for the majority of the season, you'd think. And as you've already alluded to there, Nigel, they did lose in their opening home game against Dorking in their brand new spanking stadium. Almost a 2,700 crowd there for them as well. When you consider, I think, certainly the game we played against Taunton at Gloucester was probably about 120. I think our cameraman John Gooch did a count of the fans that were there that night from memory. And we're certainly looking forward to going there just before Christmas as well. That's going to be a fun little trip, about 10 or 12 days before Christmas from memory. And a pre-season chock full of wins for Truro, lots of clean sheets. And then quite ironically, they finished at Gloucester as well for their last pre-season game. So old habits die hard for Truro by the looks of things. But again, like we saw it with the Stones, Nigel, when you have a pre-season full of clean sheets, getting those wins under your belt, it really does go a long way, doesn't it?
It's good habits to get into, isn't it? Like a bad run of form is sometimes can set teams back. If you're on a good run of form and you come in, as I say, you've got that new manager, He's come in, he's trying to implement his ways. They're going to come here with confidence, aren't they? It's going to be interesting to see how the result last week against Dorking affected them, because, like you say, a big crowd in front of their new stadium. They would have wanted a win, but it wasn't to be, and it was obviously a strong test from playing against a strong Dorking side. But hopefully it won't get any easier from coming here to the Gallagher on Saturday.
Fingers crossed. Well, in terms of the head-to-head, the Stones had won their previous 5 games in a row against Truro before the crucial, for both sides, 3-1 defeat back in April. It was a 2-1 win here in December for the Stones that kept them on track for the playoffs just before Christmas. But it was those 4 wins in a row all came in that one season, 15-16. Of course, both semi-final legs, gone are those days, of course, at this level now. But it was those 4 games we beat Truro, because obviously we racked our brains last season. We did 4 against Dartford in one season, last season, and it was the same for Truro back in 15-16. So familiar opponents, a bit of time passed between those, but again, with those 2 crucial games, last season, certainly that one at the end of the season, a lot of people still obviously a lot of weight's going to go on losing to Worthing for not going up, but that Truro game as a whole, from within the squad and the fans looking into it as well, a lot of people that seemed to be the crucial moment, didn't it, last season?
Yeah, well, you're saying that on the record there, all the games that we've played against Truro have been crucial, because let's not forget that obviously you had the 2-legged semi-final on that National South Promotion winning season. And then we played them literally a couple of weeks before the end of the season in that season as well, which the win there sort of pretty much guaranteed us. I think at the time it was obviously 3rd place, because and it allowed Jay to sort of rest a few players, leading up to that semi-final, and players that were on bookings, you could sort of either play them or not play them, depending on which the fitness was of them. So in that respect, it's going to be, obviously it's crucial and you want the 3 points, but there's, it's early season, isn't it? So both sides are going to be sort of sussing each other out. There's not going to be that momentum behind both teams. It just puts in perspective, them wins we have had against them in the past, were a crucial game. So it bodes well, if George gets the boys up for it, and, hopefully we can bring the 3 points to our tally.
Fingers crossed. Stones are confident of a win on Saturday, but they do have a mixed first home game record at the Gallagher. They have won their last 4 in a row here, but there was only 1 win in 8 before that as well. So crucially, we had Slough, York, Hemel and Welling, the first 4 home games previously. Weymouth would have been the previous one when we first came back down to South from the first penultimate, most recent, if you can call it that, run. And the only win in that 8 would have been against the Met Police, looking back through the stats there. So, yeah, not always the happiest of hunting grounds overall since we've been back at the Gallagher, but those last 4 seasons, you know, the baking hot sunshine, obviously the Hemel ones are particularly fond memory for us, with all the crowds finally coming back in again.
Yeah, exactly that.
And then obviously the York game last season where, you know, everybody was topping up the tan by the sound of things.
Yeah, and then the Slough one, you know, after that, you know, that was our first season back, or our first game back, having dropped out of the National League. So, you know, I think there was a lot of emphasis on that game to get the 3 points, and we managed to. I think we come from behind in that game, didn't we?
I think we might well have done, to be fair, yeah.
A dubious sole penalty, if I remember rightly, and then we
narrows it down.
We got the winner in the second half. So, yeah, it's it's just, you want to keep that winning habit going, don't you? That's what you want to do. So, hopefully, we can do that Saturday. You know, we're in front of a big crowd, and we can set ourselves up for what would be, you know, a big game coming up against Hampton Richmond on Tuesday evening.
Of course. So after that St Albans result, obviously Rhys Greenwich wasn't available in that squad on Saturday. Both Charlie Seaman and Jordan Higgs came off with knocks during that game, so we'll wait to see if any of those 3 are available for the squad on Saturday against Truro. There's another point I've got to mention here. The Dorking goalkeeper was in the first team of the week against Truro from this Saturday just gone. Yeah. So clearly, from a Truro perspective, in terms of new signings they've made and the existing players they've got up top, certainly a lot of attacking intent there from them as well to get themselves a positive result at the weekend.
Yeah, exactly that.
And talking of players in Team of the Week, Temi Aweka, of course, getting his winning goal, and he was in the Team of the Week as well. Only scored the 2 goals last season, so he's already halfway to matching his tally, and he's got a long way to go this season. That was, of course, his first career win at St Albans as well, he mentioned in his post-match interview. So it's quite intriguing to know, you know, how dedicated, how fixed some of these players are onto these sorts of things, and knowing, you know, how many times they've won at certain grounds. Obviously for Maidstone, come December, clean slate when we get to the Truro City Stadium, of course.
Yeah.
But there'll be a few Truro players from last season, having played in both games, probably be looking for a modicum of revenge for the result and the performance here, you'd think. So remember, if you can't make it to the game on Saturday here at the Gallagher, be sure to tune in to Fred and Joe from 2:40 on Stones Live. You'll see them on the hot take and you'll hear them on the highlights once they're online just a few hours after the game. So thanks for watching our preview once more. Happy to have you with us. And as always, come on, you Stones.